Hey friends, happy Friday. I hope everybody's doing fine. I apologize for not being there presently with you guys, but I hope I can get my points straight out there. So far we've learned about the importance of cacao industry on a historical global scale, identified its major stakeholders, and the issues that arise along the supply chain itself. And as James mentioned before, the cacao industry, just as many others related to the agricultural sector, is filled with socioeconomic issues and inequalities that most of them arise from the bottom of the supply chain, being the farmers and agricultures that are affected by harmful, unsustainable practices that making them slaves of their own societal needs and a system that allows such unjust practices. So, nevertheless, I have good news for you guys. In recent years, trends in the market have begun to call for transparency, as we've seen in class, and sustainability, as buyers pretty much are demanding to see where their products are coming from, therefore creating the good need for this new type of agricultural certifications and corporate responsibility initiatives to arise. So pretty much based on a triple bottom line approach that we've been seeing in class of environmental protection, economic and social equality, many initiatives have arisen both in the public and the private sector, which is what I will be mentioning a little bit today, especially in the voluntary certification processes like Fair Trade and Rainforest Alliances. So just to get a little bit of conceptualization, in the last 2 decades, we have seen a rise in numbers and activities of platforms, networks, and associations, international and national levels, that are engaged in the cocoa, and in particular with the specific focus on sustainability. These platforms or organizations have basically been established to bring together organizations, private sector, and big stakeholders in different areas of segments of the supply chain in order to discuss specific issues regarding sustainability of a product, in this case the cacao. So the emergence of local, national, international cocoa farmers organizations and their consolidations have basically aimed to counterbalance a consolidation of power and voice among traders and manufacturers. So all this type of organizations have pretty much engaged in international market and also national market at a small level. And this has been manifested, I'll say, in like a practical way, in which there has been an awareness created towards those who are in the bottom line and those who need better just practices and to address social economic issues that they are suffering. In terms of voluntary sustainability standards, which is what I'll be focusing, I'm going to mention 4 standards that pretty much have been, well, actually 3 standards that have been pretty famous in the past years, which is the Rainforest Alliance, the Fair Trade certification, and the Organic certification. So this have been dominant specifically in the cacao and in the coffee markets, but also in a bigger scale. And pretty much they combined, as numbers say, have certified a minimum of 1.2 million acres and a maximum of 2.7 acres in 2013. So mainly in the largest cocoa production countries, this being Africa, the West Africa like Ivory Coast and Ghana, Latin America, and Asia. So of the 3 main standards that I've been mentioning have a strong focus on farmer practices, with also strong emphasis on environmental practices, human rights protection, fair labor protections, and a traceability in terms of the supply chain and transparency of where this is coming from. So for us, the studying corporate social responsibility, this is a plus. Nevertheless, I guess we can see a critic towards these organizations in terms of how reachable and how realistic are these certifications. For instance, yes, big organizations and big cacao producers, for example, can abide by the rules of fair trade, and big corporations can be like, okay, we're going to pay the monthly mentality and abide to it and belong to it and be able to have access to this exclusive market of fair trade, yet small scale producers that are buying fine quality chocolate, for instance, can't afford to do this. So there's been a big crisis on the standards that they're setting, for example, Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade, and to see if they're really to make them a little bit more flexible for others that haven't necessarily have access to that market. But yeah, apart from this, critics, I guess, comes into this side of the farmer's perspective in terms of, for example, fair trade. Like, is this really creating a sustainability approach, or what is this doing? Just to put it a little bit in a more concrete example, so in terms of fair trade production, out of the 2 million tons of chocolate produced in the Ivory Coast in 2014, only 8% was produced in fair trade terms. And only a small fraction of this product was able to be sold and labeled as fair trade itself. So we're seeing a trend that, yes, there's availability and there's a big offer of products in terms that are certified as fair trade, as organic, as Rainforest Alliance, etc. And they're dealing with corporate responsibility issues, but there's not a big of a trend in terms of what are we seeing in terms of being sold as fair trade, organic, etc. So there's a big gap between the offer and the demand. And just to put a little bit into I guess picture a little bit better, comes also the criticism of fair wage. Is it enough? So, for example, according to Mark Kramer in his book of Harvard Review on Share Values, he criticized initiatives like fair trade, saying that they only have an ability to increase a farmer's income from a 10 to 20%, versus other schemes like share value investments can increase the value of about 300%. So this makes us question, like, is these initiatives are enough? In terms of fair trade, for example, only 5% of the world's chocolate is fair trade recognized. So I guess we should rethink the whole system and what we've been doing so far in terms of, yes, there are a lot of certifications, yes, there are a lot of initiatives, but they have not yet been able to overall end the problem of socioeconomic inequality in the sector. So I'm going to leave you guys with my friend Alexandra, because I've been talking too much so far, and she's going to mention a little bit of recommendations that we have, I guess, in terms of sustainability and corporate responsibility and how to address these socioeconomic inequalities. Thanks, guys. Pura vida.